Welcome to my next review. This time I'll be sharing my thoughts about Expedition GeForce at Holiday Park. This Intamin mega coaster is one of the best roller coasters in Europe, which is impressive because it opened over 20 years ago. But before I begin the review, let me tell you why I had a hard time to actually ride this coaster. Back in April 2019, I did a theme park trip through southern Germany. I visited Tripsdrill, Europa Park and Holiday Park. I had been to Europa Park before and I got to ride everything I wanted to there. And while I visited Tripsdrill for the first time, I had no problem with riding pretty much all of the major attractions. The visit to Holiday Park was my first to that park as well, but this visit didn't go as planned. The cold weather caused both Expedition GeForce and Skyscream, the only relevant attractions at the park, to be closed. Skyscream opened in the last hour of the day, so at least I was able to ride that once, but GeForce never opened. This was pretty frustrating, as it was supposed to be one of the best coasters ever made. If you combine that with Holiday Park being an awful park in regards to atmosphere, operations and pricing, I was very disappointed. Let's fast forward 3 years and 1 month to May 2022. I revisited Tripsdrill and Holiday Park, and I finally was able to ride Expedition GeForce. While I still think that Holiday Park is a really bad park compared to pretty much every other park I have been to, I could enjoy this visit because I got to ride GeForce a total of 14 times, which is quite a step up from the 0 rides I got last time. I also got 2 more rides on Skyscream because that coaster is pretty awesome as well, but let's take a look at Expedition GeForce now. Stat-wise, Expedition GeForce is very impressive, especially for its age. It opened in 2001 as the tallest roller coaster in Germany, sitting at a height of 53 meters, and as the fastest roller coaster in Europe, having a top speed of 120 kilometers an hour. It has a track length of 1220 meters and a maximum drop angle of 82 degrees. As the coaster has been using just one train for quite a while now, the capacity isn't exactly the best, but because the long train has 28 seats, it does get people through somewhat fast. Theming wise, there's pretty much nothing. There might be a few simple theming elements in the area and the queue line, but it's nothing that enhances the overall experience. The station is as plain as it gets, and from what I've heard, it didn't even have a roof for a while. The coaster is presented by Big FM, a local radio station, so at least the music in the station is pretty good. I'd say that while the ride does lack theming, its setting is pretty good, and I like the track color. Most of the track is built over and alongside the trees, which is similar to sections of Millennium Force. But now, let's look at the layout of Expedition GeForce, because that's what this coaster is all about. After ascending the 43-meter cable lift hill, which brings the train to the top quite fast, the 82-degree drop follows. In the back row, this drop has some crazy ejector airtime. But that's not even the highlight of this drop. This drop is twisted to the right quite a lot, so those sitting in the back half of the train get some strong whip while being pushed into the lap bar. This is one of the best drops I've experienced, because hardly any other drop combines ejector airtime and whip this well. After a fairly intense valley, the train flies over the ride's first camelback, which directly shows you what Expedition GeForce is all about. Sustained ejector airtime. 6 of the 8 airtime moments on GeForce are like the first one, but with minor differences. One thing they have in common is their difference in airtime depending on where you sit. Towards the front of the train, you get pretty strong and very sustained ejector airtime, but in the back of the train, the airtime slowly builds up before reaching the peak of each hill, and then it's some really strong airtime all the way down. So while the airtime in the back is a bit less sustained than in the front, it's a good bit stronger there. For me, GeForce is a back row coaster, but it really comes down to personal preference here. After the first hill, the train travels through a large overbank, which is similar to those found on Millennium Force. Not the most intense, but pretty fun because of the sense of speed. The ride then hits its strongest airtime moment, a camelback that is a lot smaller than the first one. It's quite sustained and provides some crazy ejector airtime, but it's the last hill on the ride with airtime this good. The next section of the ride consists of a bunch of wide turns that travel over the forest, and this part is also very similar to some parts of Millennium Force. While the ride does pull some decent positive Gs in some parts here, it's definitely not the best section of the ride. This part ends with a twisted hill with some weak ejector airtime and good whip, as well as another overbank. The last section of Expedition GeForce consists of 4 bunny hills, which all provide some very solid ejector airtime. While these aren't as strong as the first 2 hills, they are a great way to end this airtime machine. After the last hill where the ride photo gets taken, the train hits the brakes and slows down very fast but comfortably. That sums up the layout of Expedition GeForce. My favorite element on Expedition GeForce is the first drop, as it has great whip and strong ejector airtime, which feels really out of control when put together. Before giving you my final thoughts, I have to mention how Expedition GeForce still runs buttered smooth despite its age. It even runs better than some newer Intamin coasters, and as the airtime is not destroying your legs like some other airtime machines, GeForce is a very rideable coaster. The coaster does take a few hours to warm up, but I think that most of my rides were close to the ride's prime. Expedition GeForce is an incredible roller coaster with fantastic airtime and a solid layout. Newer coasters might have more complex layouts with more variation, for example Conda, which feels like a modern version of GeForce, but GeForce has been among the best rides out there since it opened. This probably was the best coaster in the world when it opened, and while there are better coasters by now, you still can't go wrong with this airtime machine. For what it is, GeForce is flawless and of course receives a 10 out of 10. It made its way into my top 10, however I am not sure if that will be the case at the end of the year. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. What are your thoughts about this ride? Bye!